There I am. Watch me. I cook, clean, sometimes I even sleep. Watch me. I go to the bathroom, I clip my toenails, I sit in front of this computer for hours, days, months. Watch me. That's exactly what I do. I started this about 2 years ago. There wasn't any one thing that caused it. A girl left, my parents left, but those weren't the real reasons. One day, I woke up and I felt as if I was watching myself live. But the line between the self that was living and the self that was watching was fuzzy. I was in limbo. Was the person closing the blinds actually me, or was I the one witnessing it from a distance? I had to make a choice. I needed to separate the two, to fall on one side of the fence. I chose to be the watcher. I set up video cameras around the house, and they took in every action, every movement. Everything I did or didn't do was captured and transferred to my computer. It made things simpler, cleaner. I spent my time observing my one-day-old self. The videos didn't lie. I watched myself close the blinds. The process repeated itself, became a pattern. My past played on the computer screen endlessly. In those first few days, I learned more than I had in years. I picked out tiny details, wasted movement, food left out to rot, disorder in the apartment. I had never truly noticed the way I walked. It was a long stride, but imprecise. In walking to the bathroom, I weaved back and forth, stumbling as if I were a little drunk. But that could easily be fixed. There was more to it, though. The showers, for instance. I had always assumed I took reasonably short showers. I watched one day as I entered the room to bathe. I waited patiently for my exit. It didn't happen for 35 minutes. I was in shock. Had I been that unaware of my behaviors and habits? Had I been that unaware of time? Soon enough, weeks had gone by. My behaviors became cleaner, more refined. Because I spent most days watching myself, the next day's tape would often be me sitting in front of the computer screen. Nothing gained, but nothing wasted. Complete economy of movement. I had to get up occasionally, for obvious reasons, but everything was going better. The videos of me were proof. I was living well, but I needed help. I couldn't leave my apartment because I wouldn't be able to watch myself. Old problems would reappear. I would be unable to define myself as the participant or the observer. The clarity of my life would dissolve. So I made a phone call. The fat man came every 3 weeks with groceries. I tipped him well, even though he didn't do a good job. He was an important part of my lifestyle, so I put up with the cheap bread and the rotten fruits he picked out. Besides, it was fine to see another person once in a while, almost pleasant. In fact, he came by yesterday. I opened the door for him. He said hello and asked me about my foot. There was a purple bruise on it from a pot I had dropped earlier. I told him as much. He handed me the groceries and left. A few seconds of interaction every 21 days was plenty. There were very few things that I missed about people. I still thought about the girl who left, though. I had so much time to think about the past that my mind often wandered back further than the day that was showing on the screen. I hadn't seen her in years, since back when we were both in college. Sometimes my memory played tricks on me, tried to make her perfect and beautiful. But she hadn't been perfect, or even beautiful. Pretty enough, I think, but the only special thing about her had been her elbows. They were special. I remember watching her from behind, elbows bending, the skin smooth and tightly wrapped around the bones. And then her arms would go completely slack, turn into straight, thin poles. Somehow, though, her skin was still perfectly formed to her elbows. How is that possible? I really don't know. But we were together for 2 years. She was the only person I'd ever let inside my apartment. After I dropped out of school, she stopped coming around so much, and finally, she stopped coming at all. She probably graduated and moved to the other side of the country. To tell you the truth, I don't even remember what she looks like. Some days she's a brunette, some days she's a blonde. Blue eyes, dimples, freckles. It all depends. My memories of her have been recounted and distorted so often that I don't think I'll ever exactly know. The only solid impression she left behind were her elbows. It's interesting. I can see the change in my body language when I'm thinking about her. I'll slouch down a little, or rest my head in the palms of my hands and take my eyes away from the computer screen for a minute or two. The same goes for other things. If I'm thinking about college, I'll usually lean back in my chair and get comfortable. If I'm thinking about the fat man who brings me groceries, I'll get just a hint of a smile on my face. I'm not sure I can explain why. But when I'm thinking about my parents, I don't do much of anything. My mom and dad are both dead, but their money still works. They had decent jobs, and they saved well. Not well enough to prevent a car accident from happening, but they did what they could. They tried their best to raise me right, were patient when they were around. I just never really cared about them, and I think that went both ways. I don't hold it against them. Since I was their only child, they left everything to me. I sold the house and anything else I could, turned it all into cash. I've looked at the bank statements and I've done the math. At this rate, I'll be able to live in my apartment for another 25 years. That's a long time. There's no guarantee I'll even be alive then. I don't want to look to the future too much, though. It doesn't interest me. Doesn't hold anything of substance. The present is fine. I have my computer, my cameras, and my videos. I watch this person walk around in space, and I realize that he's not so complex. He is the sum of a few repetitive movements and thousands of empty thoughts. He takes life one day at a time. He knows himself. Who could be here? The fat man came yesterday with groceries. Rent isn't due for 2 weeks. No one else knows me, knows I live here. Almost no one else. I'll check the door, though. It takes me 8 steps to get there. Open it carefully. I really don't know who'd want to see me.